You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Oh, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-host Kevin. Kevin, how we doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Another Tuesday. We are 3.5 weeks away from the NFL draft, and I'm looking forward to that. We have March Madness finishing up here coming up quickly. So congratulations to those teams. It's been a pretty fun tournament. That UConn Duke game obviously was a crazy ending, but there were a number of other games that provided as well. But I mean, I watched our Avs win big last night. Was it 9-2? So that was good. A little bit of Nuggets ball here and there. I mean, you name it, it's on. We talked about this last week a little bit, but there's no shortage of things on TV, sports wise, to be able to keep you entertained and keep you going right now. So I'm living my best life, man. How are you?
Cannot complain, right? We've got we're gearing up here towards the draft. That's happening here at the end of the month, right? I feel like we're close enough to April that we just say it's at the end of the month, right? We're less than a month away for sure. So we got that rocking and rolling. We got kind of lots of good things just kind of in the pipe and getting ready to start rocking and rolling here, right? The golf season's right around the corner. So definitely getting very excited on that front as well, right? Time to start getting out and teeing it up, and cannot wait for that. But yeah, I mean, overall, just kind of moving and grooving through it. And we do have a pretty fun little episode tonight as well, right? We'll touch on some news notes side of things, but then we'll dive in. We've got the mock draft 1.0 for it, which is our first rendition of the first round of the NFL draft. It's a deal where this mock 1.0, it's you got to draft it as it lies, right? There's not any trades, there's not any maneuvering on those things, so it's going to be very much a drafted as it lies on this one, and we both put together a little mock draft, so that'll be fun to see how where maybe we're similar or different on that one, and kind of rock and roll through that one. So but yeah, before we start diving into that, is there any news or notes that you want to hit up?
I really haven't seen. I mean, obviously the referees, right? So the NFL's looking at
Right.
replacement referees, and there's a bunch of stuff. Whoa, what is going on here? There's lots of stuff coming out of my speakers here right now, and I don't know why.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, sorry about that. Oh, that was interesting. Wow, lost my train of thought. News and notes, yes. Replacement referees. So that one's always interesting, right? We saw this. When did we see this, Derek? Back in 2000.
It was somewhat recently, right? And that was back when we had that Monday night shenanigans with the Hail Mary in the end zone.
Yes, the Seahawks-Packers game, right? And
Yes.
that's what everybody remembers from the last replacement referee issue. So, I mean, who knows what safeguards they'll put in place for replays and everything else. Obviously, the NFL doesn't like being made fun of, and they were the last time that they had these replacement referees. So, we'll see how that goes. It's always been curious why they're just not on the payroll. Like the NFL and the billions of dollars that it generates, like why you just don't have full-time referees on the payroll. But whatever floats their boat. But other than that, Derek, I haven't seen a whole mess of news.
No, it's been pretty light kind of going through here, right? It's got a lot of teams kind of laying weight here. As the draft season starts heating up here, and we'll start probably seeing some things start kind of rock and rolling through that. But all right, to get kind of some of the stuff that I've seen come out there is the Dolphins saying that they're not looking to move off of Devon Achane. Right, like seemingly he's the one guy on the Dolphins roster that's off the table for moving. let's see. I believe I saw some news coming out that they're going to eliminate the Monday night doubleheaders moving forward.
That's exciting.
Yes, nothing. That was awful on some of those deals where you just seemingly had those two like back to back and overlapped, and kind of defeated the purpose of having primetime games. On that.
Yeah, and for me it was the overlapping. I don't mind having them back to back. But it was the fact that you were like a quarter to a quarter and a half in, and then the next one would start. It's like, well, like you guys are dividing your viewership. Like you could get more people to watch both games as standalones than you are collectively by having them overlap. And so I am glad about this. I didn't like it. And what the Jacksonville Jaguars will be the Orlando Jaguars for this season.
Right.
Like
yes.
I did see that, right, as they're doing some renovations to the stadium and everything else. So anywhere is home for Jacksonville except for Jacksonville, be it London, Orlando, Buffalo, or not Buffalo, Toronto, anywhere else they stick them. But
right,
I whatever works, which is interesting because they're potentially starting to come around. Like,
right.
See what this looks like here this season. So I drafted Trevor Lawrence in a dynasty startup that I'm doing right now because I liked what he did and the weapons that they have down there in Jacksonville, the coaching staff. So knock on wood, I'm right and get to show it off a little bit.
There you go. And looking back on it, it was 2012 was when they last did the replacement refs. Obviously they didn't quite learn their lessons there, but also interestingly enough, right, from what I've seen and kind of various things being reported out there on that one, but some of the things I've seen is that they're drastically apart from where they want to be, right? Like the NFL, from what I saw, was offering up something like a 6.5% of some like revenue type of thing with it. Referees are wanting a full on 10% side of things, looking to do away with basically job performance reviews throughout the season and the grading of some of that stuff, as well as they want to get rid of the like a merit-based type of playoff scenario and go to more of a seniority type of deal for playoff side of things. Which, wouldn't that be nice if you could, not have to worry about any sort of reviews or metrics or being proficient or good at your job to have
right.
some sort of reward-based type of merit to it. But yeah, so it will it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. Because it also looks like too, I believe the average NFL official last year earned just south of $400,000 for the course of the season in 2025. But they're looking to try and get a massive increase on that as well. So,
strike while the iron's hot. I mean, much like the players in these contract disputes, listen, like once you settle, you give up all negotiating power for however long this contract lasts, right? Like 14 years since the last, referee holdout or whatever. So it's not like this happens often. Is it a minor inconvenience to the game? Maybe not. These guys are all professionals. They'll figure it out as far as the players go. So, I hope it works out, but we've been complaining about refereeing for a while now. Maybe we've forgotten how bad it can be. So maybe this will be a nice little reminder as we get through the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season and we realize how bad it could be. And then you hear the fans clamoring. And typically that's probably when the NFL will act. Like if the refereeing's good enough and that's not the highlight and that's not what the morning talk shows are talking about and everything else, the NFL is going to skate by and hold their ground as long as they can. But when they feel like their fan base is turning on them, they'll come back to the table pretty quick.
Right. One, I mean, you look at like last year's offseason and this last year's postseason, how many of those games where the officiating was talked about more than the actual game itself?
Yeah,
Right. Like there were several instances of that. So um I don't know. It's not necessarily you've got that bright shining light that you can come around and go, ooh, look at how good we're doing when a lot of playoff games, the officiating was talked about more than the play on the field. So,
exactly.
and it's
Well,
not like
The Chiefs weren't in it. We had to talk about something else
there you go. There
for
you
all you
go.
conspiracy theorists.
Right. Alrighty. Any other news and notes that we want to hit up here before we start driving into mock 1.0?
Let's go drafting. I'm ready.
All righty. So again, for anybody that tuning in, when we set up these mock 1.0, there's not any trades available, anything like that. You've got to just draft it as the pick lies. And Kevin's got his list, I've got my list, and we'll kind of go through that and just kind of go back and forth with who we think that this team is going to take here and go through the entire first round. So first up on the clock, we have the Las Vegas Raiders going through, and at this point, I've got the Raiders taking Fernando Mendoza.
Cosign. I think this is a pretty foregone conclusion, right? And if this was years ago, right, when some of the cat got let out of the bag a little early, we'd already be hearing that they're negotiating contracts,
Right.
right? Like it's just a formality. So, can't do that anymore. So it's kept under wraps a little bit with this rookie pay scale. Like there's no need to set this big blockbuster deal and everything else. So you don't hear it, but I completely agree. It's Mendoza to Las Vegas, and we're gonna see how it rides.
Right. Yep. So you and I are same page there. Interestingly enough, right? And this is one news and notes that we didn't necessarily touch on here, but it becomes relevant here with pick number 2. The Jets and Aaron Glenn coming out earlier this week stating that Geno Smith will be the starter for 2026, which was an interesting move after the season he just had and bringing him in. And folks, there was a lot of folks out there that thought that that would be a training camp type of battle and best person win out type of thing, with the Jets potentially, trying to maybe bring another quarterback in on the draft here. But with them coming out and saying flat out that he's going to be the starter, maybe puts a little bit of less intrigue here with the pick that they're going to go with. But for the Jets here at number 2, I actually don't have them taking quarterback. I've got them taking Avril Reese, the edge rusher out of Ohio State.
I completely agree. It is edge rusher. I think Avril Reese has kind of the biggest upside based off the raw metrics that he can offer. David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech, might be a little bit more of a pro ready today prospect, but the Jets have a ton of draft capital. I do think that they'll come away with a quarterback at some point in this draft, but it might be somewhere further down the line, right? Like I wouldn't be surprised. Top of the second round, maybe they take a stab at like a Carson Beck, something like that. I don't think Ty Simpson's the answer. I'm not buying the smoke that's coming up from there right now. So I think Carson Beck's a better prospect. So we'll see where all that ends up shaking out. But I think that the Jets definitely aren't going quarterback at 2. I agree. It's edge rusher.
Right. Well, that's interesting that the Ty Simpson kind of smoke that's really starting to pick up a lot of steam there. Yeah, I have seen some mock drafts coming out where they've got him going number 1 overall. Which interesting that, off of what we saw last year, what we've seen through his college production, all of that, like he's managed to pick up that much steam where some people are actively putting him that high. But it'll be interesting to see how that comes to play.
Yeah. I'm never going to say never, right? Because Baker, right? When the Browns took Baker, he was kind of the dark horse for a long time. Now, overall, that quarterback class had a little bit more prestige than what this one has. But I would sure be shocked. I mean, beyond shocked even whatever word you want to associate with that, if he went number one. Like Ty Simpson's not, he is a project. Like he is not day one ready. He does not read the field quickly enough. He does not make a decision fast enough. Yes, he has a quicker release, but he needs to. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about him in the first 3 rounds, 4
Right.
rounds even. Like that's what's saving him is the arm talent. But right now, to draft him top 5, I think would be a massive, massive mistake.
Right. I would agree with that as well. That brings us to the Arizona Cardinals, and the Cardinals seemingly have a lot of holes as well. But I'm gonna right here. I've got them going offensive line and got them taking Francis Maguire out of Miami. I'm sure
Okay.
I butchered that name.
So we differ a little bit here. I have them staying on the defensive side of the ball and just trying to find more guys to get after the quarterback to deal with some of the deficiencies that they have. And I have them grabbing David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech.
Okay. That was one I did look at for a minute there, but yeah, figured that they're probably going to be having another high-end draft pick next year. Might as well get a offensive lineman to help shore up whoever you're going to be drafting with probably another top 5 pick next year at quarterback. So that's kind of where I was looking at that one. That moves us to number 4, the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee, I've got them going with a running back. I've got them taking Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame.
You know, I've seen that from a couple different places, and I think I'm going to go along with this in our 1.0, but I do not think I'm going to be there the rest of the time. Like I'm really talking myself into them grabbing either offensive linemen or like a Caleb Downs. So they brought in free agent pass rushers. Well, once you have the pass rusher and you're trying to force that ball up in the air, like Caleb Downs in my mind makes so much sense because now you need someone to go pick it out of the air. And so eventually I think I'm going to have Caleb Downs there. But I think for tonight, I'm going to say I agree with you. And we're going to have Jeremiah Love both slotted in that 4 spot.
Okay. Yeah, it was one of those. I think Jeremiah Love might be the best player, overall player available in this one. And I think that's where Tennessee's kind of looking at this one. But again, kind of very similar to what you just stated there as well. I don't know that I'm going to still be here when we get to like 2.0 or 3.0. But for now, that is kind of where I'm settling. Which moves us on to the number 5, the Giants. And the Giants, right? I've got them taking a guy you just mentioned, Caleb Downs, with this pick right here.
I think that pick would fit very well for the Giants. I went on the other side of the ball, and so they had Wan'Dale Robinson leave, right? Malik Neighbors coming back off an injury. You need weapons for your young quarterback in Jackson Dart. So I have the Giants grabbing Carnell Tate out of Ohio State to try and pair him with Malik Neighbors and see if they can get a young offensive cornerstone. Because with Neighbors, and if it were to be Tate, and you still have Cam Scattaboo coming back as well, that gives them a nice, real young nucleus that they can run for the next, 3 years until they have to pay Neighbors, 4 years until they have to pay anybody else. It gives them a little runway there to sink a bunch of money into the defense while you're on these rookie contracts with the offense and try and progress them in a way that's kind of the new norm for the NFL.
Fair enough. I mean, I like that thought. I went with the downside of things just because, right? Like he kind of reminds me a little bit of a like a Kyle Hamilton type of deal as far as how versatile he is and how much he can play on the defensive side of the ball there in that backfield. And Harbaugh seems to really kind of like that deal. So that's kind of where I saw that fit coming into play, more so on that one. But I could definitely see them going with the Carnell Tate. And I do think Carnell Tate is definitely a talent that we're going to see his name called early here in round one. So much so, in fact, that I've got with the Cleveland Browns number 6, I've got them going with Carnell Tate here. They've still got some questions at the quarterback side of things, but bigger questions on the wide receiver side of things here. So I think they're going to go with wide receiver here, see what ultimately plays out in the quarterback room this year if Watson's back. Are they, looking at Shadur, like what ultimately plays out there. But I think that they're going to go out and get a weapon for for whoever's playing quarterback to try and throw the ball to.
Yeah, and Cleveland does need weapons. I went with a pass protector for the Browns. They had a lot of offensive line issues last year. They lost a couple in free agency, and some are just getting a little bit older in the tooth here. So I've been grabbing Monroe Freeling, the tackle out of Georgia, and being able to go. So I think that they can plug him right away at right tackle, but I think his long-term position is going to end up being left tackle. He'll get switched over there eventually, but to get him NFL reps right away, I think he'll probably start on the right side.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that one too. Moving on to number 7, that puts the Washington Commanders on the clock. I've got them going with a linebacker here, right? Typically not one that we see, position called out, super early in the draft, but I've got them taking Sonny Styles out of Ohio State.
I like that. I went cornerback. So
Okay.
same side of the ball, just different position. But Manzor Delane out of LSU. Long, speedy guy who can cause havoc and jam up receivers. You're going up against an A.J. Brown, C.D. Lamb, George Pickens, Malik Neighbors in this division. And Delane's a guy, size-wise, will at least be able to compete with them pretty quickly.
Right. Yeah, I do like that one as well. You're really going with the Sonny Styles side of things, because I do think that with Dan Quinn's offense, that side of things, right? Like Bobby Wagner definitely kind of fit the part, getting very long in the tooth. And this is a guy that can plug and play into that kind of system and really stand out and be a day one standout for that team. So, but I do like that cornerback pick there as well. All right, let's go ahead and move on here to the 8th pick of the New Orleans Saints on the clock here. And I've got them taking an edge rusher here with David Bailey.
Okay. I like that. They need help on the defensive side of the ball. I went with receiver help. If Tyler Shook's going to be their guy for at least another year, trying to get another weapon in to truly par up, they traded away Rashid Shaheed. He's in Seattle now, so they need and they need a guy to help soak up some targets, take some pressure off of Chris Olave. So I went with Malachi Lemon out of USC.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that call. All righty. That moves us here to number 9, the Kansas City Chiefs, in a position we typically don't see them draft from here over the last decade or so. But I've got the Chiefs going to look at Spencer Fano, the offensive lineman out of Utah.
Cosign. That's who I have as well. I think he fits that Chiefs running game. I think Kansas City's just BPA, right? BPA. They never seem to be without some sort of offensive line controversy, at least short term in Kansas City, and then they always get it worked out, seemingly. But I agree. Spencer Fano, get a young offensive line in there, or a young offensive lineman in there, and have him continuing to help out Mr. Mahomes.
Right. Yeah, I think that's I think that's definitely a good spot for them, which moves us here to number 10, the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Bengals, I've got them taking Reuben Bain, for this position here, the edge rusher out of Miami.
Another cosign. I agree. They need help. Trey Henderson's leaving. Need a guy who can get after the quarterback, and Reuben Bain is a guy who can step on the field, be really, really physical, and try and put pressure on the quarterback for the Bengals.
All righty. Moving on here to number 11, the Miami Dolphins on the clock with that one. I'm looking at them to take a cornerback here, taking Mansour Delane out of LSU, the cornerback.
I have the Dolphins going offensive lineman here. So Francis Muigoa.
I think you did a much better job pronouncing that than I did the first go around.
Again, so he gets to stay in Miami, which is always a good thing. But as the Dolphins rebuild, retool, whatever, I think they're doing this right by starting in the trenches.
Yep, I like it. Alrighty. That's going to move us on here to pick number 12, the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys, I've got them also looking at cornerback here as well, and going with Jermod McCoy, the cornerback out of Tennessee.
I like that because they do need help in the secondary. However, this is where, for this draft, the Cowboys are able to strike big, and they pick up Sonny Styles as his slide in this version of my mock draft is over. But he's going to find a way to go to Dallas, and they get their big splashy name and a guy that can step in and not be Micah Parsons, right? He is not the same guy as Micah Parsons, but he is a ultra fast linebacker that can get side to side, and that they can really start to, reformulate this defense.
Yeah, I could see that one. Sonny Styles was off the board for me on this one, but I like that fit there as well. Alrighty, let's move us to number 13, the Los Angeles Rams. I've got them taking Mekhi Lemon, the wide receiver out of USC.
Same position, but Lemon was already off the board for me, so I have them going Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State.
I like that one too. Yep. I do think that the Rams are looking for wide receiver in this position, right? There were some rumors coming out that Devontae, they looked at potentially trying to trade Devontae Adams. Yeah, a little bit longer in the tooth there, right? You're gonna bring in you've already got Puka there. They're gonna have to very quickly decide if they're gonna pay him, if they're gonna move on from him. And I think that they're gonna bring in a wide receiver to have something to backfill that position here. Whether Devontae's time is shorter, or if they do move on from Nakua on that one. Okay, so that brings us to pick number 14, the Baltimore Ravens on the clock, and another name that I am drastically going to mispronounce here, but I've got the Ravens looking at interior line on this one, and I've got them going Ola Vega Ione out of the guard out of Penn State.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I'm gonna co-sign there as well. Hits a big need for what the Ravens need as they try and make up for obviously Lindenbaum leaving, some of the other offensive linemen getting a little bit older. But I think this works very well.
Right. So that moves us here to number 15, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the clock here. And I've got them looking at the defensive side of the ball, and I've got them looking at Keldrick Falk, the edge rusher out of Auburn on this one.
I think that's a great fit. Tampa Bay needs help, especially edge rusher. I have a different player though. I have Akeem Mesidor as the guy who lands in Tampa here.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mind that one either, but I do think that they're certainly looking at that edge position. Alrighty, that moves us back to the Jets, and the Jets are going to have their second pick here in the first round at pick number 16. I've got them looking at wide receiver. Wouldn't surprise me if this is where they started feeling a little bit footloose and fancy free, and maybe thinking about pulling the trigger on a quarterback here, just to bring him in, allow the get that 5th-year option on this one. But I do think that they're going to go ahead and take a wide receiver here to ultimately kind of bring in and try and have opposite of Garrett Wilson. And I've got them looking at Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Arizona State.
I like that. There's another player who's slid down my board here for 1.0. Guy we talked about earlier, and the Jets are elated because Caleb Downs is who I have in this position going to the Jets.
Okay. I like that one. If he's available there, that certainly makes a lot of sense for them. Alrighty, that moves us here to pick number 17. The Detroit Lions are on the clock. And Detroit, not that long ago was known to have one of the best offensive lines in football. That necessarily isn't the case any longer. They certainly have some holes along that unit, and we saw that kind of be an issue over the last year or so. But I've got them addressing that position of need quick, fast, and in a hurry with Monroe Freeling, the offensive lineman out of Georgia.
Same position, just different player. I have Caden Proctor, the big offensive lineman out of Alabama.
Okay. I like that one too. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and look at the Vikings with pick number 18. And I've got them taking the safety out of Oregon, Dylan Thiemann.
Okay. Secondary, I have Tremont McCoy, the cornerback out of Tennessee is where I have. So both secondary needs. So we're on the same page here.
Right. Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on over to pick 19, the Carolina Panthers. And I've got them going through to try and shore up their offensive line here a little bit. A guy whose name you just called a couple picks ago, but I've got them going with Caden Proctor, the offensive lineman out of Alabama here.
Okay. I have the Panthers being kind of maybe not silly here, but they're going to add to this youth that they have around him. Kenyon Sedek, the tight end out of Oregon. And I think they try and make a splash play, give another weapon there with a young emerging wide receiver core. And we're just going to see how it shakes out. But I think Carolina steps out and decides they're going to grab a tight end here.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mind that one, right? I've seen some different mocks out there that have, him kind of going to that spot there as well. I kind of like it, right? They've tried the Tommy Tremble experience. They've tried some of these other tight end experiments out there, kind of these mid-late round guys, while Sadiq's maybe a little bit smaller size from a traditional tight end, the athleticism is certainly there and definitely tight end 1 in this draft. So I don't mind it. I kind of like that pick there. Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on here to pick number 20, the Cowboys back on the clock here. And where you had them taking a linebacker earlier in the draft, I've got them taking a linebacker here with pick 20. And I've got them taking CJ Allen, the linebacker out of Georgia.
Yeah, I have them defensive side of the ball, but this is where I have them grabbing corner, with grabbing a linebacker earlier. So Colton Hood, the cornerback out of Tennessee.
Okay. I like it. Alrighty, let's go ahead and head on over to pick number 21. The Steelers are on the clock here, and the Steelers are another team that could potentially go out and try and draft a quarterback here, try and get that 5th-year option, things like that, right? Still not overly sure if we're going to see Aaron Rodgers back in the season or not, but I don't have them going this route. I've got them going with a wide receiver to bring in and try and bolster up that room even more. And I've got them picking up Omar Cooper Jr., the wide receiver out of Indiana.
No, son. I have them doing the exact same thing. Couple different reasons. Maybe it entices Rodgers to come back, gives him another weapon. There's also a possibility of being kind of an insurance policy if after this season they want to move on from DK Metcalf, and if they're looking for cap savings to do different things. And with Mike McCarthy running this offense, we know that they do want to air it out. Right. It is not going to be just passing to the tight end happy. Like he does want to work that deep and intermediate passing game, like we just saw with Dallas a couple years back. So another wide receiver to kind of get away from some of the 3 tight end personnel that Pittsburgh had been accustomed to here over the last 3 or 4 years.
Right. Alrighty, that moves us on over to pick number 22, and that puts the Chargers on the clock here. And with the Chargers, they can go a couple of different routes here, but really where I see them playing out is going on the defensive side of the ball. They're in a division that, right, you got to get after the quarterback, and you got to get put pressure on that to help your secondary out. So I've got them spending this first round pick on an edge rusher out of Clemson, and I've got them going with TJ Parker.
Oh, I like that. I have them going Caleb Banks. Big defensive tackle out of Florida, help block up the middle, stymie, whether it's stopping the run or whether it's being able to get some internal pressure right up the gut to speed up Mahomes and Bo Nix and potentially Fernando Mendoza.
No, I like that one there as well, right? So we're both looking at trying to get that defensive line shored up there a little bit. So I like it. That moves us on over to pick number 23, Philadelphia Eagles on the clock. And with this one here, I've got them taking an edge rusher as well, right? Adding some additional depth onto that defensive front there. And I've got them taking Akeem Mesidor out of Miami, the edge rusher.
That'd be crazy if they ended up landing him. What a talent of defense that they could have. I have them going offensive lineman. I have them going Blake Miller, the offensive lineman out of Clemson. Lane Johnson's getting a little older. They had some injuries along the offensive line last season that kind of potentially stuttered the offense a little bit. And they're going to try and shore that up and make sure that Jalen Hurts has time to push the ball down the field.
Okay. Yeah, I like that one. And that was kind of the other thing. I hemmed and hawed a little bit on that one between going with an offensive line for that same principle that Lane Johnson is long in the tooth and probably, looking at the sunset rather quickly here. But again, with Mesidor there, couldn't pass that one up. It puts the Browns on the clock here and puts them on the clock again. Cleveland, I've got them looking at offensive line here as well. Right, had them taking wide receiver earlier. Now I think they're going to go through and try and shore up that offensive line a little bit. I've got them taking Caleb Lemieux, the offensive lineman out of Utah.
Okay. I have them going with the edge rushing counterpart to Myles Garrett and TJ Parker out of Clemson.
Okay. I like that one. So that could be a scary front there as well. Alrighty. That puts us to pick number 25, Chicago Bears on the clock here. And the Bears, I've got them looking at some secondary help on the defensive side of the ball here. Right. And there's and really where I've got them looking at is Emmanuel McNeil Warren, the safety out of Toledo.
Okay, safety, just a different guy. I think you and I, again, along the very same lines here. Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon is the safety that I have him grabbing.
Right, and he was already off the board for me, but if he's not, I'm sure that they would probably jump on that one there. All right, that moves us to number 26. The Bills are on the clock here, and I've got the Bills taking Avion Terrell. And I just lost my place here. Anyway, I've got them taking Avion Terrell, and I'll find my notes here in a moment if you want to go.
I'm torn here with Buffalo. I think they probably should be going wide receiver here and finding a little bit of help, but I don't think that is is the case necessarily. So on a flip, they're going to get some secondary help, being able to plug that in. And Emmanuel McNeil Warren, the safety out of Toledo, is who I have going to Buffalo.
Okay. And I did finally find my notes there, right? So Avion Terrell, the cornerback out of Clemson, right? So again, on that pass side of things and on that secondary side of things there as well. I've got him going there, right? A little bit bigger than right. They did just take a cornerback at last draft with the first round pick as well, but a little bit bigger on this one as well. And Avion Terrell's a cornerback that can actually get in there, force some fumbles as well as ball hawk as well. So I do think that kind of fits Buffalo pretty well there to help kind of level that out there on the defensive side of things. All right, moving on to pick number 27. That puts San Francisco 49ers on the clock. I've got the Niners going wide receiver with this pick. Wide receiver certainly has been a bit of a thing for them over the last few years, right? Debo left before last year. We've seen the pressers with Shanahan and Lynch saying that they believe Ayuk's played his last snaps with San Francisco. You've got Juwan Jennings, not still out there in the free agency side of things. So really you've got some limited options there, but I've got them going with wide receiver here and going with with Denzel Boston, the wide receiver out of Washington.
All right. I have them going wide receiver, but I have them going with Casey Concepcion, the dynamic playmaker out of Texas A&M.
Okay. I can see that one too, right? Like allows you to get a little bit more in the in the slot and a little bit of a quicker type of deal. I like the Denzel Boston because it's puts a bigger frame out there, potentially kind of fills in more so what you were seeing them use Juwan Jennings for last season there as well. So same position, I like it. That puts us to number 28. The Texans are on the clock, and I've got the Texans going with a defensive lineman here, and a defensive unit that can get even scarier with a defensive lineman like Peter Woods being added to the mix.
I like that. I have them looking on the defensive side of the ball. Also, I just have them looking at linebacker with Anthony Hill out of Texas.
Okay, yeah, I can see that, and I like that pick there as well. Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on to pick number 29. That puts Kansas City Chiefs on the clock on this one, and puts them back on the clock. And at pick number 29, I've got them looking at potentially trying to bring in the heir apparent to Travis Kelce, who is going to run it back here one more year. But Kenyon Sadiq is still on the board here. I've got them taking that position to try and backfill a very important position for them.
I have them going with Denzel Boston. They're going back to the wide receiver well since they had 2 picks in the first round. I'm sure they'd love some cornerback help here, but at least on my board, they didn't have anything that I felt like was first round worthy for them. But Boston's a guy who can step in and give them a little bit of firepower with Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice. It would be Boston, and then whatever cast of characters Kansas City fills the rest of their wide receiver room with.
Right, exactly. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and move on to pick 30. The Dolphins are on the clock here, right? Having acquired that pick from the Broncos in the Jalen Waddle trade. The Dolphins, I've got them looking to fill wide receiver. And I've got them taking Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M, with this pick.
I like that. I have the Dolphins going with Kendrick Falk. Where did I?
He's a defensive lineman out of
yes.
Auburn.
Yes, the defensive lineman out of Auburn. Sorry, lost my spot there for a second. But yes, Kendrick Falk. So again, they're trying to retool everything they can get, but they traded away one pass rusher, let 1 or 2 others go here in the offseason. So they're restocking the cupboards.
Right. No, I like that. I like that call there, and I could absolutely see them doing something like that. All right, that moves us here to pick 31, New England Patriots. I I really don't think the Patriots are going to make this pick when it's all said and done. I think that they're going to trade back, let a team come up and draft their, the quarterback heir apparent project type of quarterback that they're looking to do, right? So this is one of those that if we see a Ty Simpson go, I think this is really the pick that we see him go with at pick 31 when it comes to the actual draft. But again, at this point, not able to trade back on that one, so got to make the pick as it lies. With that pick there, I do see the Patriots going and addressing some of their defensive line, and I do see them taking a guy like R. Mason Thomas, the defensive lineman out of Oklahoma.
I like that. I have them going offensive linemen to continue to make sure they protect their franchise in Caleb Lamo, the offensive tackle out of Utah.
Right. No, I could see that one. And I like that if he's still there. All right, that moves us to pick number 32, and that would be Seattle. Seattle's on the clock here, and yeah, they certainly put together a very good season this last time around. When you get a pick out at number 32, you done did good there. But when this one's all said and done, I've got them looking at Zion Young for this pick here. He's an edge rusher out of Missouri, and I think that that he'll be able to kind of fill in and potentially kind of replace a Boye Mafe who recently left in free agency.
I like that. I have the Seattle Seahawks replacing a player that left this offseason as well. However, I'm going back to running back and getting with the Seahawks grabbing Jadarian Price to go alongside Zach Charbonnet and being able to bring him in. You have the 5th year on him. The way that Seattle kind of runs through running backs, they'll run him through that first contract and then they'll let him go out to pasture.
Right. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one comes out to play as well there. And it also would not surprise me if Seattle decides to move back, right? If there's a team that really wants to kind of come up and get a guy for that 5th year option, I could absolutely see them just saying, okay, and moving back there as well. So, but yeah, anything that you kind of stood out to you that you kind of surprised you when you were going through it, as far as, maybe a guy slipping a little bit or falling a little bit, or
I think on my board in particular, I think with Styles and Downs both slipping a bit, I think that'll probably get corrected slightly as we go up. As happy as I'm sure the Cowboys and Jets would be, respectively, having landed those players in their current draft position, I just don't know that that's necessarily going to be the case. Obviously, we talked about Jeremiah Love. Maybe a guy that's kind of the hot name. Tennessee is swearing up and down right now that they're not drafting running back at 4. Is it smoke? Is it truth? We're going to find out here, but I think in the future, I'll probably be hedging my bet saying they're looking elsewhere. Tennessee just has too many needs, and running back at 4 is kind of a true luxury pick that typically teams drafting in the top 10 don't have.
Right. Yeah. And for me, it was a kind of how few cornerbacks I had kind of coming off the board. But again, this is a draft where it's a little bit more of a like good, not great at the position there, right? Typically, cornerbacks are ones where we start seeing 4, maybe 5 come off the board. Really, in this one, I only had 3 coming off the board in the first round there. So that one was a little bit surprising to me there. Yeah, I felt pretty good about the rest of it though when kind of sitting down and looking through that. But I'm sure that as we start getting into your versions 2.0 and 3.0, there'll be some pretty good shakeups in there.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, it's round 1. We got a couple more weeks to take stabs at this and see how the news falls and what we're hearing out of camps. Again, whether it's smoke or whether there's actual fire, we will find out at the end of April. But for now, we'll keep throwing our names out there just like everybody else.
Right. Well, that'll be it'll be interesting to see here too, right? Because both of us only had one QB going here in the first round here. And typically we see that position go a little bit heavier in a lot of years. So it'll be
I think
to see how much of the smoke is, how much fire there is with some of the Ty Simpson smoke.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think Arizona and the Jets are two teams that you could potentially see it back in the back end of the first round, whether it's the Jets trading back from 16 to acquire some extra capital if they feel like they want more draft capital. Maybe it's the Cardinals trading back up into the end of the first round, and where that goes, and if they're both kind of thinking of each other, how early are they going to be able to get up the board to be able to do something like this, or if it's something as simple as trading from 16 back to 22, 23, and maybe you don't get into the deep 20s, but you want to make sure you stay in front of teams like Buffalo, who are always seemingly content in trading away their first round pick to somebody to try and acquire more draft capital.
Right, exactly. So even last year in a draft class that was a little bit lighter, in that we still saw two quarterbacks taken in the first round, with the Giants trading back up into pick number 20 to take Jackson Dart, and with Cam Ward being taken number 1 overall, right? The last time that we only saw one quarterback go in the first round was the 2022, where Kenny Pickett was taken in that 20th spot there. But typically there's usually 3 or 4 quarterbacks, if not more, taken in that first round. So it'll be interesting to see, right? Obviously, this is not like a 2024 draft class where you saw 6 quarterbacks go in the top 12 picks. Or even like 2023, you saw 3 quarterbacks go in the top 4 picks. We certainly won't see that happen, but it'll be interesting to see if there's a team that trades up to, take a Ty Simpson, take a Carson Beck, type of guy to get that fifth round option on that one there as well. So, but yeah, we'll kind of see how this thing finishes playing out. Any kind of final thoughts here on Mock 1.0 or final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Thanks for tuning in again. There's plenty of good sports entertainment on television, whether you're doing dynasty startups, whether you're finishing out your bracket pools, whether you're getting ready for playoffs for the NBA, NHL, golf season. Obviously NASCAR is kind of going right now. F1 is going, so there's tons and tons and tons of stuff on. So as you're watching some of these other sports, you do a little draft homework, right? Just be looking at guys that your team of choice, or at least potentially looking at, and how that could impact your future, especially if you're drafting fantasy wise.
Right, absolutely. So, it'll be good to see how some of this kind of continues to play out, and excited to see. Typically here about 2 weeks out, we usually start seeing some kind of heavy smoke start blowing here. So I think that we'll see this ratchet up here and really start see this play out here over the next week as well. And so we should make for an interesting mock 2.0, which we'll rock and roll through next week, but excited to get to that one. But that's going to do it for us tonight, right? Make sure, for anybody out there listening, hit us up on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the places at Good Old Boys FF. Do us a big favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe button wherever you're viewing this content and listening to it. It really helps us out. But that's going to do it for us tonight. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.